a company which is ailing, a company which is living off the taxpayers' money, repeated infusion of cash. What does this say about the mindset of this individual, and what does this say about the condition of a government enterprise like BSNL?
I mean, I couldn't stop from laughing because actually it's mockery of governance. You know, what I look at it is that how can somebody, such a senior officer within the government, dare to seek such favors?
The fact is that we don't know where the governance is failing. My sense is governance fails at this level, and Sanket, you'll see this time and time again in other examples which come up. It fails when it isn't emphasized and enforced and practiced.
As you can see right behind Mr. Vivek Bansal, this is an old photograph with that quintessential white towel in the background.
And I think that there must be a huge dry cleaning bill somewhere of all the white towels. If you were to do a totaling of white towel costs, it'll be brilliant, and it'll make for a program in itself.
Hello and welcome. You're watching me, Sanket Upadhyay, on TheFederal. The show is called AI with Sanket. This is the AI of news because news in India today requires not artificial but analytical intelligence. On the show today, we are going to talk about Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL. The company, which is a Sarkari company, a government telecom company, which is the fourth largest among the four companies, which means it is essentially last, with the dwindling market share, with very bad connectivity, with very bad revenue score, with very bad methods of managing itself, and yet crores and crores of taxpayers' money is being pumped into keeping it alive. Mind you, this is a company which is still not on 5G. In fact, it is not fully on 4G also. In many parts, it is still on 3G and in some cases 2G network. And in this company, along came a gentleman who is the director called Mr. Vivek Bansal. Mr. Vivek Bansal wanted to go to Prayagraj to offer his prayers, to take a dip in the holy river. And for that, and that is why I gave you the context, for this poor and terribly performing company to deploy 50 staff members of BSNL so that the trip of this director is pleasant is right here on display. It went viral on social media and it includes, get this, things like arranging 2 cars with white towels, 3 or 4 people minimum assisting him from different locations to his hotel, then the hotel, along with that, 2 suites in a different hotel, then some camps which are created for his meetings should have detailed arrangements, and then the standard routine chips, biscuit and all those things are standard. The one detail which caught my attention the most is point number 10, which says purchase and packing of kits for 2 days for 4 vehicles, which will include water bottle, chocolates, chips, fruit juice, glasses, napkin. And then after bathing at the Mela, the director will require 6 kits, each including a towel, underwear, mirror, comb, soap, shampoo, oil, slippers, and then the same kit for females, and then the list goes on and on and on and on. Just ask yourself, in a company as poor and as underperforming as BSNL, which is living on cash infusion of 1.64 lakh crore rupees in 2022, of 89,047 crore rupees in 2023, which is yet to roll out 4G completely, which is far away from its 5G dream, which is still on 3G and 2G, for the priorities of one of its directors to deploy 50 staff members to be in attendance as he takes a dip in the holy river and arrange for his underwear at the taxpayer's expense. Should this irritate and outrage the people of this country or not? That is the simple question. Why are we tolerating these modern day Maharajas? We discuss. All right, joining us right now is Mr. Dilip Cherian. He's the founder of Perfect Relations and also an ad guru. Thank you very much, Mr. Cherian, for joining us. It's so fortunate / unfortunate that you always participate on the federal discussions when somebody needs an image correction. Last time it was someone else, this time it is the BSNL director. Professor Bejon Mishra is an international consumer policy expert. Thank you very much, Professor Mishra, for joining us. Mr. Dilip Cherian, to you first. When a BSNL director, for his visit to a place, deploys 50 workers of BSNL, a company which is ailing, a company which is living off the taxpayers' money, repeated infusion of cash. What does this say about the mindset of this individual, and what does this say about the condition of a government enterprise like BSNL? Mr. Chair.
This has become a social infraction. It is the norm now. Some we spot, many we do not even know of, or don't get recorded or get exposed. BSNL is just one example, but I think that it is quite visible in many other examples. The other day I wrote about a very important person in the country who has absolutely no threat to his person, arriving at a book launch with 35 policemen in tow. What I'm saying is that this culture that a government employee or a government functionary is a VIP by definition is something that after 70 years of independence and after a huge volume of spending on security, we just need to allow these individuals to function as normal citizens without being a burden on taxpayers. Taxpayers of one kind or the other. The corporate kind gets spotted, the routine kind pass by with whirling lights and sirens. That's the problem of this country. It is a societal problem which has gone rogue.
Exactly, a societal problem. But you see, Professor Mishra, I'm sure you must have seen that note which has now gone viral, which has been taken down, and now this visit has been cancelled. And mind you, this visit has only been cancelled because this note went viral, because there was social embarrassment. Otherwise, things would have gone as planned. A 21-point schedule with 50 points of contact, and there is even, Professor Mishra, a point of contact to arrange for comb, water, towel, and even underwear for the chairman, for the director of Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited. Professor Mishra, what does this say? I mean, I know you are smiling, you are laughing, but what does this say? What sort of VVIP? A director of BSNL cannot buy his own underwear.
No, Sanket, I must confess to you, I mean, I couldn't stop from laughing because actually it's a mockery of governance. You know, what I look at it is that how can somebody, such a senior officer within the government, dare to seek such favors? I'm not able to understand that. That is number one. Number two, which means that it is embedded within the governance that these kind of activities go unnoticed and it doesn't reach the hierarchies, you know, who are supposed to be auditing such expenditure in terms of, see, I'll give you umpteen examples where, you know, the CAG has reported in terms of irresponsible expenditure made with taxpayers' money. Umpteen examples. And the most important thing is we all know where BSNL is today in the domain of telecom. They are almost vanished and they have swallowed huge sums of money of the taxpayers and they have no accountability at all. No heads have rolled because BSNL could not compete in the marketplace even after so much of money being spent on them from the taxpayers' exchequer, whereas they should have been competing on their own, with their own resources. Now it is evident that these kind of organizations in the public sector, they don't perform only because of this kind of a culture which is there, which is not getting eradicated even after the Prime Minister giving a slogan that, minimum government, maximum governance. Now, where is that maximum governance? I am not able to understand, because I still recall 1996, we brought in an initiative called Citizens Charter, where we made public services accountable to the citizens, where we said there should be standards set out of public service which are governed by taxpayers' money, to ensure that they have some kind of a commitment towards quality of service and the standard. And Citizens Charter in 1996 got accepted by the Prime Minister's office. It was made mandatory by, I still recall how Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he became the Prime Minister, he made sure that all the ministries in a mandatory manner, whereas this was a voluntary initiative, let me tell you. But the Prime Minister had to intervene to tell the ministries that please bring out your Citizens Charter, because we want to know that minimum standard which we will follow. Now, these have all gone by the wind. Nobody is accountable. There's no transparency. And most of the time, Sanket, you will be surprised to know that these kind of incidents, we have to bring it to the highest authority like the Prime Minister's office. Only when we bring it to his notice, and that also we are not sure how many of them are reaching it, and how many of them are getting the attention from people like us who keep writing on such issues. Now, the point which I am making to you is today that because you intervened, and let me tell you, that is why I always said my consumer movement, the best friends are the media. Today, if media was not there, we would have been nowhere. We would have been nowhere. Citizens would have been taken for a ride. Sanket,
yeah, but then you see, many of these incidents.
You people.
I know, but I do not really want to take this opportunity to pat the media on the back. Media has its own set of problems, and that is for another day. But Dilip Cherian, do you feel that this is, as you said, a systemic problem, a problem where it stems from the society, and if tomorrow you had a condition where the oppressed were to reach a position or a seat of power, they would become the oppressor themselves. They will do the same thing. And that is what is manifesting.
I completely agree with you and worry about that. These are people who are taking their cue from those above them. The fact that Dr. Manmohan Singh tried to do this is great, but things have got watered down because simplicity at the top engenders the ability for compliance at the next level and the next level. You really have to have what I call the satyagraha kind of attitude to being in power, to being the governor of the people. You are empowered to make sure that people at the maximum share. And coming to shareholders, in corporates like BSNL, which are running at losses, and I believe that, there are many corporations running at losses, but the fact is that we need to make sure that governance at the district magistrate level, the district collector level, the MP level, the MLA level, the panchayat head level, the kind of expense that is hidden, despite the CAG, despite the nodding acquaintance that many of them have with audits of any kind. The fact is that we don't know where the governance is failing. My sense is governance fails at this level, and Sanket, you'll see this time and time again in other examples which come up. It fails when it isn't emphasized and enforced and practiced at the very top. The problem is you have to practice it at the very top. You've got to minimize your burden on the exchequer. There are several excuses given. It is a state occasion, or that it's a security reason, or that this is a very senior government employee or a public sector employee, he needs to be catered to so that he can perform better. All of it, unfortunately, is just rubbish. It is hogwash, and it's a method of disguising the kind of wasteful expenditure which denotes nothing except adding importance and a sense of majesty to people who want to behave like rulers the moment they get the seat, as you said, Sanket.
Very well said. Professor Mishra, do you feel that, as Dilip Cherin just mentioned here, these are modern day Maharajas, and a seat of power is considered as if you are the head of some fiefdom or some kingdom. In this case, the director is the director of the BSNL kingdom, and his little exercise should be that he must be given 2 sweets. There should be elaborate arrangements when he reaches the ghat. The list is endless. I mean, I don't want to repeat this over and over again. 21-point agenda, 50 people, 50 BSNL staff. And Professor Mishra, what BSNL, which received a 1.64 lakh crore spectrum allocation and debt restructuring and capex to enable 4G, 5G rollout in 2022. Then the next year it received 89,047 crores for 4G, 5G spectrum infusion. Then there are fresh efforts even in 25-26, and yet you have this company which has a pathetic average revenue per user rate of just 99 rupees. Whereas in competition, Airtel and Jio stand at a much better ARPU. Now these are technical words. The point that I am trying to ask you here is that as an end user, as a grahak of BSNL, and more importantly as a taxpayer whose money has gone into or would have gone into buying the underwear of the director, what are my rights, Professor Mishra? What are my rights?
You see, the foremost right, as I said, as a citizen, I have a right to transparency, accountability, information in the language which I understand. I have a right to standard. I have a right to be heard. I have a right to redressal. Now, these are all official rights as per the Consumer Protection Act of 1986 and subsequently Modi ji brought in 2019. Now, what I want to tell you, Sanket, is a Maharaja is born out of prajas. Maharaja is made out of prajas. And where is the praja? And what I want to tell you today, wherever I am, in whatever small manner I can play a role, the role I play is I don't recognize these Maharajas. When I am standing in the queue for doing security at the airport, if any Maharaja arrives, I don't allow that Maharaja to bypass me as a praja. I don't allow. And they get the signal very loud and clear, and then they find a different path to go for that Raja to be led to. So the prajas have to wake up. And my favorite slogan has been Jago Grahak Jago, which we coined it in 2005. And the Planning Commission at that point of time agreed to fund this whole campaign for the country, and which ran into 100 crores per year. They were not even getting 3 crores, Department of Consumer Affairs, and they were not able to spend that money, 3 crores. So I still recall, how Montek Singh Ahluwalia got surprised that you are asking us to spend 100 crores and they're not able to spend 3 crores. Now, institutionalism is the most important thing. How do you institutionalize in terms of bringing in transparency and accountability within these Maharajas? And this is what I want to tell you. The present government under the leadership of the new, not new now, 11 years, the Prime Minister has been always at it, saying that please, for heaven's sake, be very transparent and accountable. Now, the point is the prajas have to raise their voice. The prajas don't raise their voice because most of them don't come to know, including our Honorable Prime Minister. So we have to find a mechanism like your media. For example, you are running this channel. Now, through this channel, I am sure he would come to know what we have been talking about. And then I am sure there will be action taken. But this has to be institutionalized, which is unfortunately it is not. People can get away doing whatever they want to do, but it is not happening the way which our governance is demanding. And the prajas have to wake up. What I want to say is the VVIP culture comes out of the prajas. The prajas recognize these Maharajas, and these Maharajas take advantage of that recognition, and then they start misusing it. So we should not allow such misuse. What I am all the time trying to inculcate on the citizens is, please speak up. If you are scared, जो डर गया वो मर गया. तो डरने से नहीं होता है, आपको courageously बदलाव लाना होगा. You have to bring in reforms, the fast track reforms. The fast track reforms which the government is talking about. Now every ministry has been told, bring out your reform, agenda in the next 1 month, next 2 months. Now what are those reforms? The most important reform is the VVIP culture has to go. We have to get rid of this VVIP culture. We have to get rid of the so-called Maharajas. We have to come into a realistic check. We have to find out that what is that which will bring that change and give that the best quality service, best quality product at the most affordable price in the most affordable manner. And this is where, if the expenditures are not tamed, if they are not, spent in a due diligence manner,
I'll tell you what happens. I'll tell you what happens. You see, BSNL went through the exercise. Mr. Dilip Cherian, BSNL went through the exercise of taming the Maharaja, in trying to reduce the debt, in trying to reduce the expenditure. There was an entire debt restructuring exercise to raise capital expenditure for modernization of BSNL. And I'm only restricting myself to BSNL right now. And yet you have a situation like this. The problem, Mr. Dilip Cherian, don't you feel, is this power-starved mentality of people, that somehow let's get there so that we can benefit from these perks of power. So being in that position is lucrative only because of the perks that follow. You don't want to reform or change anything because debt restructuring happened. Reforms have been happening. Look at the number of cash injections. Where is BSNL right now? A pathetic fourth.
BSNL is a good case study for how public sector companies need professional oversight that goes beyond the ministry. As I said, it is not just the BSNL Maharajas. They report to Maharajas above them, and what happens is that culture percolates downwards. Beyond is hopeful that the praja will rise in revolution. I think that this needs to begin at the top, and the signaling has to be there. The BSNL chairman, the BSNL CEO, they are the people who should take action on this, and they should also turn the mirror on themselves. Where are the expenses on them, on their offices? In most of these offices, the kind of overloading of fat is to be seen, to be believed. So what we need to do is we need, in structures like BSNL, external audit as much as internal audit. Internal audits get compromised because they are too close to the Maharaja and are very often beneficiaries of sharing. So the problem is that when you have a culture of being able to dispense gratuitous advantages to those below you, then you actually begin to feel more and more like a Maharaja. The praja has nothing to do. They only have the fear of losing their job. In BSNL, I commend the brave person who actually leaked this, the whistleblower who made sure that this came out. But aside from those wonderful people, most of them live under the threat that their jobs will be snatched. The directors and the CTOs, as I call them, will continue because they are flush with soft sofas and soft parachute landings.
Since you're sitting in a car, Dilip Cherian, I want to draw your attention to point number 13 of this 21-point charter. The arrangement and the SOP which was put in place for Mr. Vivek Bansal. Point number 13 said, please arrange 2 Innova Krista cars, white color, no other color but only white. And hear this, with new towels. This obsession and fetish to have a cushion right next to your arm with a white towel, Mr. Dilli. I hope you don't have a white towel in your car.
I don't have a white towel, but if you see the picture that you're using of this brilliant gentleman, he is already sitting on a chair emblazoned with a white towel. Now that is the perk of state. It is the equivalent of the stool on which the Maharaja puts his foot. That white towel behind you is the drape of doom. Because once you have that drape of doom around you, then you are ensuring doom on those who come to prostrate themselves in front of you. But your survival is guaranteed. Just like the Maharajas are and the Maharajas of yore, till such time as somebody actually stabs them and takes them out. The fact is that the white towel is ubiquitous, and I think that there must be a huge dry cleaning bill somewhere of all the white towels. If you were to do a totaling of white towel costs, it'll be brilliant, and it'll make for a program in itself.
Oh wow! I can only imagine if the Comptroller and Auditor General were to audit the laundry bill of the white towel of India's bureaucracy. As you can see right behind Mr. Vivek Bansal, this is an old photograph with that quintessential white towel in the background.
They don't send it for laundry, they buy brand new towels. I said,
oh yeah, absolutely. As is evident in the circular.
That's what I'm going to tell you.
No laundry. Bring new towels. This 21-point charter which wants sarkari shampoo, sarkari oil, sarkari underwear, sarkari sweets, sarkari long list, and 6 different kits, mind you, not one. The director needs 6 different kits.
This belongs to an era when sarkari officials were sitting in offices which were not air conditioned and sweating it out, as it were. And they were usually foreigners, the British, but it has carried on unchanged.
This is a very nice perspective. So this is a legacy of the British bureaucracy, Raj, and it existed because there were no air conditioners. To soak up your sweat, the white towel was used. However, we have carried that legacy as a symbol of your arrival. And that is what the bureaucracy does. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's just hope that something changes and people, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's hope that people rise and ask questions. The more questions that we, the people of the country, will ask, question everyone, question everything, the more such situations we will have where, yes, Professor Mishra, where people will be embarrassed to take back such filthy orders.
No, I just wanted to give the last the thought was that you don't need revolutions. You need, a kind of an environment where people are allowed to speak up, and they are heard. Most important thing is people should be heard, representations should be acknowledged. There should be some kind of a mechanism. And my 45 years, what I have done is only that I did not wait for a revolution. I have always done what I could do within my circle of influence to change what is not there and which needs to be there in the interest of the citizen. So I should be able to speak up, which I did in a very, very committed manner. But after doing due diligence, after doing full research with full evidence, I went before the government to put my representations before them to bring policy changes. So this is what needs to be done, like what you did. You brought in an evidence, you brought in public conversation on it, and you saw that it got dismantled because you did that. And because people came to know that you're going to now expose it in public domain. So he had to cancel his trip. Now that's a success. It didn't bring in a revolution. We didn't need to wait for revolutions, but we brought a change within the community, which is important.
Yeah, even a little change. And the point is, for people who do not know or are unaware, Professor Bejon Mishra has been fighting for consumer rights cause, has been raising his voice, has been leading silent revolutions, sometimes not so silent, and he's doing all of it without the white towel. Thank you very much, Professor Mishra, for joining us on this broadcast, on this program. We will continue to speak to you whenever we have more such problems, whenever we find more such issues where, in the name of the consumer, you have flamboyance on display. Thank you very much.
Wish you all the best.